Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are right at 8:30, so we are going to go ahead and call the meeting to order here. You can find your way to your seats. Welcome to the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Brian, and I am an alcoholic. This is a one-hour speaker meeting that meets Saturday evening at St. Paul's Lutheran Church. That's 301 North Main Street in Doylestown, PA. We have food and fellowship for this group starting at 8 o'clock every week, and the speaker comes on at 8:30, so feel free to show up early, join us, enjoy the coffee or refreshments we put out. This group has a business meeting that meets every Saturday, 7 p.m. to 7:30, so again, feel free to come early and join us if you want to get involved in some service, become a member of this group. You can see any home group member after the meeting. The purpose of this group is to provide a consistent message of hope and recovery through God reliance and service to others through the practice and teachings of the 12 steps. We record all our speakers so that others may benefit from their message of recovery. If you wish not to be recorded, simply ask. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. The group would like to welcome everyone, especially newcomers. Is there anyone out there that's new at this meeting for the first time or visiting from out of town that would like to introduce themselves on a first name basis so we can welcome you? Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Ryan. I'm an alcoholic.
Ryan, welcome. Yeah, go ahead.
My name's John. I'm an alcoholic.
John, good to have you. Yeah.
My name's Misha. I'm an alcoholic.
Misha, welcome. Yeah.
I'm an alcoholic.
Owen, welcome. Yeah.
Welcome,
yeah.
I'm Frank. I'm an alcoholic.
Frank, welcome. In the back there, yeah. Welcome. We get everybody nice. The Conscious Contact Speaker Group encourages sponsorship. Would anyone with working knowledge of the 12 steps and who is willing to sponsor, please raise your hand. So we got people willing to sponsor here. If you're new, you want to get involved with this group, hang out with us after the meeting. There'll be a group of us breaking down the meeting. We'd love to talk with you, get you some phone numbers, some meeting lists, get you some contacts, get you into the solution a little bit, I always say. Are there any announcements from the floor for the good of AA? Anybody have anything going on? Yeah. Nick. Thank you, Nick. Anybody else, anything? No? A couple announcements from this group. This group has a sister group. It's a big book study meeting. It meets up right up the road here Thursdays at 7:30 at Salem UCC Church. That's 186 East Court Street in Doylestown, PA. And again, the coffee for that meeting's on at 6:15, so feel free to show up early and join us for that one too. We have meeting lists and big books on easy terms. Please see me or any home group member after the meeting. If you cannot afford a big book, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group will give you one at no charge. Anyone willing to make donations for the purchase of big books and CDs to help those who cannot afford them can put their donations in that jar on the back table marked Big Book and CD donations. All CDs are available free of charge. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got a YouTube channel, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group at Doylestown. We post all our speakers from this meeting on there. We got a ton of views on there now. It's a good resource to have. If you come here, you hear a message of hope that you think somebody else can benefit from, you can go to our YouTube, find all our speakers there. Makes it real easy to share them. We also have a Facebook page. We post all our upcoming speakers on there. Any events, workshops, celebrations, things of that like. Other groups will post things they have going on. So I always say that's a good resource to have to stay tied in with just the happenings going on in AA throughout the area here. And with that, I'm going to bring Murph up here. Murph is going to read our Just for Today prayer of recovery. Help me give a warm welcome to Murph.
Hey guys, I'm Murph from Alcoholic. Just for today, prayer of recovery. Just for today, I will be agreeable and I will look as well as I can, dress becomingly and talk low. Act courteously, criticize not one bit, not find fault with anything, and not try to improve or regulate anybody except myself. And now everybody give a hand care for the preamble.
Good evening, y'all. My name's Kara. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic. Welcome home, everybody. The AA Preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. Now I'd like to ask Gary to come up to read our 12 steps of recovery. Let's give Gary a warm welcome! Woo!
Good evening. My name is Gary and I'm an alcoholic. The AA 12 steps of recovery. Number 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4, made searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except one to do so would injure them or others. 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admit it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. And 12, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we try to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all affairs. And now I'm going to bring back up Brian T.
Okay, this group does have a 7th tradition. Every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. At this time, we'll make sure the basket makes its way around. Again, there's no dues or fees for AA membership, but we do have expenses, and your contributions do help us to cover the cost of food, rent, big books, workshops. So it is greatly appreciated. There's absolutely no smoking on the church property. We got a good working relationship with the church. We were just talking with the pastor before the meeting here, and we're very lucky to have this facility to hold our meeting in every week, and really all they ask is that we keep the premise clean, so just be considerate of that as you're coming and going from the meeting. Please take a moment to silence all cell phones and limit movement during the meeting to avoid distractions. And now to introduce our speaker for tonight, a good friend of the Conscious Contact Speaker Group on loan to us from the 707 Literature Group of Villanova. Please help me welcome Frank.
I'm Frank, and I'm an alcoholic. Hi, everybody. Thank you very much, Ron, for asking me to speak. Ron called yesterday and asked me if I would have an interest in speaking here tonight, and I was always taught to never turn down service. So I didn't. So here I am. This is a beautiful room. I live about, it took me almost an hour to get here tonight, and I think the last time I was in Doylestown was to visit a girlfriend, maybe 18 or plus years ago. And I remember driving out here thinking, I must have really liked this girl. This is a long ride. This is a long ride. I'll start with my sobriety date. My sobriety date is December 4th, 2006. So I just celebrated 18 years in December. And I have a sponsor, he has a sponsor. I've been through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I sponsor guys too. I have 5 sponsees right now, 2 of whom are here. So I was doing the math. I think 40% turnout for a one-day notice is pretty good. One of them's newer, so he has to come. I will start at the beginning. It's my daughter's 7th birthday today. Her golden birthday. She's 7 on June 7th. And it was tough to leave. She begged me not to leave tonight. Her mom was doing bath with her, and she said, no, please don't go, please don't go, please don't go. And I said, I got to go to a meeting, and she doesn't really know about where I go. I just say meetings, and she says I work too much. But she doesn't know that the meetings are Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. Not yet. Someday she will. And I just knew that I had to leave. And I gave her a kiss, and she was in the bath, and she said, you look like James Bond. And I said, thank you, and I gave her a kiss goodbye. And, you know, as I was driving out here, I just kind of thought to myself how lucky I am, and how in the past 18 years, the life that has been afforded to me and that's grown up around me because of Alcoholics Anonymous is a wonderful thing. I have a loving wife. I have my daughter. We have a dog. We have vehicles that have paid car insurance on them. Like if I get pulled over, I'm not sweating it. Doesn't mean I like it, but I don't have anything to worry about if I did. So I grew up in Malvern, Pennsylvania, not too far from here. And I had a pretty good childhood from the outside, I guess. My dad was a bond broker, so he worked in the stock exchange in Philadelphia. He was a workaholic in retrospect, and it showed. We had a lot of the good life. You know, we had nice cars, we had a big house, we had anything you could possibly want and desire, but my parents' relationship was heated and kind of tumultuous. They fought a lot as I was growing up. I remember that very well. And my mom's one of 10. She's Irish Catholic, and my dad is an only child. So obviously they were a terrific fit. You know, he was 1 and then she was 10. I have 39 first cousins on that side. So there was this huge family on this side that was huge drinkers, big laughers, bartenders, restaurant business. I could not wait to get involved. You know, I would watch that party from afar, and I just could not wait to be a part of that warmth and that connection that I watched grow up around them as they drank. I would say I didn't drink. Like, I don't have that kind of story where it was like I was 10 years old and I started taking drinks from the side. The first time I ever kind of got outside of myself was I had actually huffed gasoline, and the way that came about was I had a go-kart, and it was a 1957 pink Thunderbird go-kart with a 5 horsepower Briggs & Stratton on it, and I begged my parents for that. I saw it on MTV. It was like at one of their shore houses. I was 10 years old. It was sponsored by Cherry 7-Up, and it had Cherry 7-Up on the side of it. And I will never forget that go-kart. And it showed up Christmas morning, and it brought an immense amount of joy into my life. And I learned how to work on it with a really cool uncle of mine who was like no kids, motorcycle uncle, very involved with our family, very involved with me. And as we were working on it one day, he just said, you know, when I was little, I was your age, we would take gasoline and we would put it into a rubber glove, the yellow one like you'd find under the sink where your mom does dishes, and we would just blow in and out of it, and it would make you feel really good. Don't ever do that. And I remember, I don't think his taillights were out of the driveway, and I was like, I gotta get one of those rubber gloves now. There was something it built into me, you know, like I think it's like a disease called first thought wrong, where like that's the first thing he told me, don't do that, that's the first thing I need to do. I need to go get that glove. So I did. And what happened was, I remember closing my eyes and just driving that cart down our road, and the next thing I knew, I had come to, and my teeth were rearranged, and my face was bleeding, and the go-kart was wrecked. And what happened was my dad came home and said, you know, what did you do to the go-kart? What happened to the go-kart? And I'd already been to the dentist with my mom, and I lied. And I said a deer ran out. I swerved to avoid it. I crashed the go-kart, and I'm okay. And we got the teeth fixed. And what he did was he helped me fix that go-kart. And that, for me, in retrospect, was the point where it all kind of started. I mean, it was all in there. The software was already pre-installed from the factory. But for me, what that proved was do something wrong, mess up, lie about it, get away with it, everything's fixed, move on. And I think that that process continued for me until I was arrested the third time. The first two were just a dry run for what was eventually going to happen. But I was an overachieving kid. I was in Boy Scouts. I was an overachiever up until the point where I knew that I could make it, and then if I saw the finish line, I would quit. I think it was like, if somebody referred to it in here one time as a just enougher. Like I would do enough to like get to where I could see like, yeah, I could totally get the gold star. I'm good. And then I would kind of nope out and go, that's for suckers. I'm just not, I don't need to finish it and see it through. I'm fine with just doing what it needs to take to get done. I get all the accolades. Frank's in Boy Scouts. He made it to life. He doesn't need to make it to Eagle. I'm going to check out. I did that. I owned a little painting business on the side. I owned a little, like a mowing business where I would ride my bike and have the mower in a wagon on the back and take it around to neighbors' doors and cold knock and go in. And, you know, I was an industrious kid. Other kids that I was friends with, I remember their parents would say, why can't you be more like Frank? And I remember thinking when I would hear that, you're out of your mind. If you knew what I was like, because I was like that Eddie Haskell kid where I'd be like, let's mow the lawns for $10. This will be great. And then as soon as we were done, I was like, let's go burn something. You know, like, let's go into the woods and start a fire that maybe the fire department might have to come put out, because that'll be sweet. And I would do stuff like that. I found a lot of solace in, like, fire, in cutting trees down, in building tree forts, in just kind of being away, isolation, I think, and away from, like, the herd. I played team sports, but not very well. I was a good pitcher in baseball, but I would always get hurt no matter what sport I played. My dad called me Magnet Head, which is such a loving nickname for a kid to take on, because it seemed like anytime I played a sport, whatever the ball was would find its way to this enormous head of mine, which I swear is like a 12 pounds, and it would just crack me, and I would wind up in Paley Hospital, or I would wind up with a concussion. That happened in football. It happened in soccer. I was the goalkeeper, terrible goalkeeper, and took one on the chin, 2 nights in the hospital, concussion. Same thing with baseball. I got hit in the face with a line drive, broke my occipital bone, very scared to pitch after that. I never pitched the same after that. And I could still feel, you know, where the ball hit me. But I was no good at sports. I was an okay student. I wasn't like honor roll ever. I think I got honor roll one time, and I was so excited I brought the bumper sticker home to my parents, and it was, I'm a General Wayne Middle School honor student. And I showed it to my dad, and he said, that's the ugliest bumper sticker I've ever seen. And I mean, in his defense, it was like this big, you know, like, and he's like, I'm not putting that on a BMW. Like, no, we'll put it here in the window where everybody can see it when they come in. It was huge. It was huge. I mean, God bless him. I see where he's coming from in retrospect, but, you know, as a kid, I was like, man, I can't do anything right. I was kind of a dork. I had a huge head, like I said, that'll come up. I had like big ears, I had zits. I was just not really, you know, I wasn't like, definitely not like a George Clooney of middle school. Like there was all these, you know, great looking guys that were, you know, I'm the star quarterback, and I did this, I played lacrosse, and me, I was just like, I don't know, I'd like, I'm gonna ride my bike out and mow some people's lawns this weekend. Like, I was kind of an outlier in that way. I never felt very comfortable in my skin. It just, even though it looked good on the outside, like we had a pool, you know, my mom had 2 Great Danes, like it was some sort of like Pinterest ad or something. Their ears were all cropped, and like delivery men would be like, you know, like gone, like just like, no. It was just this weird, big, beautiful life that was very difficult to control on the inside, because on the inside there was a lot of fighting. I have a younger brother and sister, I'm the oldest of 3. There was a lot of hurtful words, there was a lot of judgment, not just about us, but about other people too. You know, we knew a lot. There was a lot of intimate details about the marriage, about the relationship that we were privy to. And I don't know why, but I think it was just my mom's upbringing. I should mention that both of my grandfathers were alcoholics, and both of them died an alcoholic death. And not pretty, you know. It was always, my mom's dad was a gambler, a horse track degenerate, a VFW drinker that would go in and out of the rooms. He was very familiar with AA, and I remember as a young kid hearing him say, the meetings don't work. The meetings don't work. Because he would be talking to his daughters. He had 8 daughters, 2 sons, and they would be arguing all the time about, why can't you get sober? Why doesn't it stick? Why isn't it working? And he said, it just doesn't work. It's not going to work for me. It might be for them, it's not for me. And I remember hearing that a lot. Then he had a long run where he was sober. So we thought, and one time he came to visit us at our house, and he left a note. This was the strangest note I ever got. It was on a red Solo cup, which, I mean, they have a lot more prominence now, I think, because of beer pong and whatnot. But the note that he left on the red Solo cup was just like, hey, sorry, I missed you, love you guys, see you soon. You could barely read it too, it was in ballpoint pen. And in retrospect, I was like, only a drunk guy would be like, let me leave a note on this beer cup and the first thing my mother did when she pulled it off the knob was put it to her nose. She took a big sniff out of there, and I remember getting teary-eyed. And I was old enough to know at the time, like, all right, Pops is drinking again. And it wasn't too long after that he had a fall at a racetrack, broke his hip, was admitted to the hospital, got an infection from the surgery to repair the hip, and then died from that infection. But the party line was, Pops died from pneumonia. Pops didn't drink too much, don't talk about that. He was a great man, he was a saint, don't talk about it. Same thing with my grandfather, my dad's dad. He would sit there and he would drink whiskey in a very small Eagles glass and just watch the news and smoke cigarettes. And they both died pretty young. I mean, for nowadays, for how, I see 71-year-old guys jogging now that I'm like, that guy could outpace, he's like, I'm training for an Ironman, this guy. I know he's like 72. I'm like, slow down, dude, you're making me look terrible. But my grandfathers at 71, that was it. They checked out. One was 69, the other was 71, and that was the end of it. So for me, what it was like was really good looking on the outside and just an absolute firestorm of uncomfortable, unsettled, uneasy, worried on the inside. And that's just kind of how it went for a very long time. I got hooked up with the DARE program at Sugartown Elementary School. I ran the DARE program, and this will come in later during my first arrest when the cop who arrested me said, aren't you the kid that ran the DARE program? And I said, you must have me confused with somebody else. And then he came back into the cell and brought a photo of me. And back then, they were very involved. They would come into the classroom. They would teach us about not drinking and driving. They would burn a pile of marijuana and waft it around the room so that the students could smell what it smelled like. And I remember the first time they did that, I remember thinking, that smells like my dad's bathroom. And it did. It did. I busted him and went looking afterwards and found it and was like, I knew it. My dad's a drug addict. And at that time, I genuinely thought we were in trouble. I was like, this guy's at the wheel for the whole family. And he's addicted to marijuana. It kind of kept going like that. I worked very closely with the DARE program. I never drank I had a restaurant job when I was young. I worked at Martini's restaurant in Devon from 13 years old to 18 years old. And in that's maybe the worst job. Like, if you want to fast track a kid to like how the world really works, give him a busboy job for 5 years under the most alcoholic men and any of the high profile Phillies and Flyers from the 90s to come in and just watch how they drink and watch the party unfold, and me thinking, I want to be a part of that bad. So I worked there. I became a fireman, a volunteer fireman. I went to Great Valley for a year, and I couldn't go there anymore because I told my parents I wasn't being challenged enough, but what it was that I had filled my ex-girlfriend's locker with dog poop, Great Dane poop, and she opened the locker, it tumbled out, and her brother happened to be one of these linemen for the high school football team. So when I arrived at high school, him and his buddies were waiting for me. And as an adult man, in retrospect, okay, I get it, I deserve that. But the behavior at the time was kind of bodily and mentally different than my fellows. That line really hit for me when I came in and I read that, which was kind of like my hall pass, but also like my life's curse, that line, the bodily and mentally different from my fellows. Those guys tortured me for my first year of high school. I had a very difficult time. They beat me, they would corner me. I didn't have any class where I wasn't, had things thrown at me, poked, pulled, twisted, stuck up, swirlies, the whole thing. It was a terrible year for me. It was terrible. And then I didn't want to tell my parents because of what I had done, so I just said, this school's not challenging enough for me. So they sent me to all the nice prep schools, Episcopal, Shipley, all that. I got caught cheating on the entrance exam to Episcopal. I got caught cheating on the entrance exam to Shipley. I was not allowed to go to either one of those schools because of that behavior. I was always looking to get over. As I kind of rose up, I was like, I don't want to be first. I don't want to work to be first, so I'll just cheat. It's a lot easier for me to just cheat. I'll just bring the book. Somebody told me the essay's on water shipped down, so I'll stuff it down the front of my jeans, and then when nobody's in here, I'll crack it open and I'll do a verbatim paragraph out of this thing, and they'll think I'm like Stephen Hawking or something and be like, he's got to come to this school. He's going to win championships for us. And instead, I got caught both times, which made a very bumpy ride at home even bumpier. My parents split up in 1996, which was, who didn't see it coming in retrospect, but it was still a pivotal point in my life for how I just felt very unmoored. Even though my dad was kind of a workaholic anger monster, to have somebody at the wheel, high on weed, it was still better than having nobody. And when he took off, things really changed. I would say my first drink, I went to St. Joseph's University on a scholarship to be the Hawk, the mascot. That was like my dream, because attention is one of the most unbelievable feelings for me. It was. And I wanted to be the Hawk. How great is this job? You get to dress up like a fake bird and run around and people clap for you. That's the dream job for me. That's how twisted I am. So I washed jerseys, jock straps, shorts, underwear, towels for a year underneath that basketball court at St. Joseph's University to get one chance to be the Hawk. When the other guy, who hated me, those guys all hated me. They were like a little clique that was like, they'd be like, you'll never be the Hawk, that type of thing. You can't do this job. In their defense, they were right, because I did it one time and quit. The whole gold star, I'm good. One time I did that job. It was the worst thing I ever did, I think. Well, I don't know, we're a little ways in, but you be the judge. It was one of the worst things I ever did, because you're in that thing, it's 110 degrees, you're losing like a pound every 30 minutes. People are grabbing that Hawk thing and being like, let's go Hawks! Right into the mouthpiece where your face is. Your feet are 30 inches long. Your tail is behind you. People are pulling that. The other team is kicking you while you're not looking. You can't go to the bathroom, and there are no breaks from this. Waving your arms. If you stop waving your arms, you are in trouble. You are in jeopardy of losing a $6,000 scholarship if you stop moving the arms. Quote. So I lost the scholarship for $6,000, and my dad got a bill for $6,000, and I remember him saying to me, "You can't even be a fake bird right." In his defense, maybe one of the funniest lines of my life, in retrospect. You know, at the time, that hurt, you know? I thought I wanted that. And that's another theme too, is like the idea of what I think I want is very different when I actually grab the ring. I will fight and gnaw and cheat and kick to get to that ring, and then I get there and I go, this is it? The only time that hasn't happened is sobriety, is AA for me. Now, after I quit being the Hawk, there was really no reason to kind of like keep pretending and wash all these guys' jock straps, because let me just tell you, not a dream job. And I lived in the dorm with all the players, so I was kind of already their mascot anyway, even without the Hawk costume on, and they were just like, let's get this guy drunk. And that was the first time that I got drunk, and I had finals after that, which I skipped. I skipped all the finals. That was enough. That was the answer. That first taste of that alcohol and the dry goods involved, that was all I needed. That was the feeling that I was looking for. All the distress that I talked about growing up, all the skin 2 sizes too small, all the uncomfortable nature that I always felt vanished. That was it. That was what I was looking for. And I just remember thinking, why didn't somebody give me this sooner? All the lies from the DARE program about how this is bad for you and ruins lives. This is the greatest thing ever invented. No wonder. So I quit school, and I got a job at another restaurant in Conshohocken, and I got an apartment close by to St. Joe's, just in case I wanted to go back, which I didn't, and I spent the next 2 years drinking as much as I wanted, whenever I wanted. The restaurant industry and the bar industry was a perfect place to hide, because you could I could drink and use however I wanted, and everybody was like, Frank, give him some clue, you know, like it's 9 o'clock. He needs the little hair of the dog. You need to get him back on track. And I did that for a couple of years. Until I stabbed a guy in a road rage altercation, coming off of 76 one morning on the way to work. You know, it takes a particular breed of psycho, which is me, to get into a stabbing incident before 9 o'clock in the morning. And I managed to do that. Now, you know, I'm always up for a little dice on the road, because I have this kind of factory in me that will make adrenaline for me. I don't necessarily need to drink or use. I can fire myself up in that way. And if I get angry, I'm big. And when I'm big, I'm high. And so I can generate that with a little dice on the road. And I've always kind of been like that. This one was bad. And this guy threw a punch in the window at me, and I had a pen knife, a fishing knife that my father had given me, and I put it in his arm. He pulled it out of the window. He went back to his car, and I remember thinking, okay, that's over. It wasn't. I got to work. I worked at Billy Cunningham's court in Conshohocken, and it just so happened that the morning that I was there, Billy Cunningham was there. And not the best look for the boss. You know, we would have to come in and lock the doors behind us and get all the tables ready, marry the ketchups, do all the stuff that the other team hadn't done the night before because they were too drunk. We would fix it and then do it all. And I remember specifically standing in the front of that restaurant and seeing all the cops down low, you know, like the CSI run, like when they have their hand on each other's shoulders running like a centipede. And I remember looking out the window. I was cleaning a table and I'm thinking, I wonder what that's all about. And then the one lifted the door and tried to open it and did the no, and they all went around the back way. When they came in the back door, I didn't know what was going on because it was two plain clothes and then the rest of them. And I didn't know what to do. So I took a swing and I punched the first guy that was coming at me. Turned out to be a police officer. and they tackled me. I went through the tables, they picked me up. My aunt also worked there at the time, and I just remember being dragged out of there by all these cops. They were pissed. And I remember looking over, and she was sitting next to Billy Cunningham, and there were tears in her eyes, and I just remember her looking and going, why? Like that. And that was a big part of my story, is why? Why did I do that? Why did I just take that swing? Why did I stick that guy with that penknife? What am I thinking? Why do I not have that pause? That was my mom's birthday. It was December 14th. What a wonderful gift to give my mother on her birthday, you know. When she got the call, I remember her voice saying, "Hi, hon," like that, thinking that I was calling her to wish her a happy birthday. Instead, I needed bail money, I needed somebody to come get me, and I needed a lawyer. Somehow, I weaseled out of that one. I got the right lawyer who convinced the guy that he was the aggressor and that this was a self-defense thing, and if they turned it on him while he was in the courtroom, he would be the one going to jail. The guy never showed. And for me, I felt, whew, you know, close one. I need to tighten it up a little bit. I can't be doing that anymore. I have to get better at being worse, at hiding it. I have to get better at hiding it. So I did. I kind of went to ground. I didn't show everybody. My grandmom passed away and she left me her house, which was a big surprise. She didn't really know anything that was going on. So in the middle of all this, I get a house, just gifted to me in Belmont Hills in Bala Cynwyd. And I lived there. I had beautiful flower boxes. I had a wonderful front porch, because just like growing up and just like the rest of my life so far, if everything looked good on the outside, people wouldn't really think about what's going on inside, or they would at least leave it alone. What eventually wound up happening was that I became a thief. I became a burglar. I became a car thief. I would steal cars at fake valet stands that I would set up at high-end restaurants in Philadelphia that did not have valet stands. And I would load the cars onto a carrier, and then we would take them to the port, and they would vanish. And in return, I would get paid money, enough money that I could come into any bar in Philadelphia or the surrounding suburbs and be a big shot. Give me a round for the whole place. A round for everybody, on me. And I would wave, and the whole, like, all of that. That pride of that, I loved. The attention, the pride, the big shotism, the ego fill. I absolutely loved that. I did that for a while. And they started to kind of breathe down my neck a little bit. They were getting wise to the whole setup. So we stopped doing that, and I started taking cars from people's homes or businesses. And it got out of hand really fast. And I was involved with a lot of people that I shouldn't have been, and I was in trouble. So honestly, what I really thought was, when I got arrested and they were charging me with grand theft auto, grand theft, receiving stolen property, interstate transport, lurking and prowling, which out of all the charges was my least favorite. Because when you look at that on paper, when a judge reads it out loud, lurking and prowling, it sounds just terrible, lurking and prowling. Lurking has a very, like, this to it, like you turn your lights on, like, ooh, there's a guy, like, shoulders up, hands like Mr. Burns. No, they got me. He worked in the DARE program, the guy that came to arrest me, because the car that I had stolen, the last car, was from the house that I grew up in. I went back there to a family that was raising their kids there, and I took their car from the house where I grew up. But what I forgot to do was take my car. So I left my car registered in my name at the house and stole their vehicle. It didn't take a crack team of detectives to trace me down. And when they came to get me, I know whenever I watch cops, whenever they get the guy, he's never has a shirt on. And I'm like, why don't these people wear shirts? And when they knocked on the door that day, I had cameras up. I was very paranoid at that point in my life. And I looked at the camera, and from the top down, the guy just had a windbreaker on, and he had a clipboard, and I thought he was like selling magazine subscriptions or something. So I just went and opened the door with no shirt on. And as soon as I opened that door, I saw the badge. I saw the badge. What I'd like to say is God showed up that day with a badge. Because that man, normally, I did everything wrong from a criminal perspective. I invited him in. I told him what I had been up to. You know, I remembered him from the DARE program. I let down all my guards. I was tired. I was done. If there was a criminal defense attorney like watching it, you know, like Interstellar, when he goes back and sees the mistakes he made, the criminal defense attorney would have been like, no, stop talking. I told this man everything. And in return, he took me to jail, but he did not handcuff me, and he did not put me in the back seat of the squad car. And we rode in the front seat together, and he told me, you're not going to run, are you? And I said, no, I'm not going to run. And I wasn't. And I didn't run. And on the way there to the judge, he handed me Altoids, and he said, put these in your mouth. You smell like a brewery. And I hadn't had anything to drink that day. So this was old booze from the day before. And I just remember thinking, I'm underweight. I'm missing half of a front tooth. I have an afro. I look like crap. I feel like crap. How did I wind up here? And now I'm in big, big legal trouble. And I went in front of the judge. They tried to, you know, railroad me through as some sort of ARD, which is like an accelerated rehabilitation thing. And I had never had anything like this. No theft, no grand theft, no nothing like this previously. Just the little stabbing that I talked about earlier, which they looked at, but they were also like, got thrown out, and they were like, oh, we're not going to look at that, we're just going to look at this. And the judge said to me, when I went in front of her, she said my full name, and she said, I don't think this is the first time you've done something like this. I think this is the first time that you've gotten caught. And I knew it was over. Like when she said that, I still have the feeling in my chest of it was the first time that it was like somebody putting a flashlight right on me. She got me right in the chest because she was 100% right. So I went to Karen in Wernersville, and it was December 1st, 2006, I agreed to go to Karen. I didn't go until December 4th. And I drank the next 3 days as much as I possibly could and tried to detox off of dry goods and anything else that was afflicting me at home on my couch. So the only reason I agreed to go was to get out of jail. That was it. My lawyer was like, if you go, it'll look great on your transcript that you went to rehab, and I think we can beat this, because what I was looking at was 10 years unless I gave up the other people that were involved. And I did not want to give those guys up. Those guys, I just didn't want to. And it wasn't about that, like, you know, I don't talk, this is a code, you know, it was not about that. It was just like self-preservation. I don't want to die. I don't want to talk about what happened. So I spent 30 days at Karen. I spent Christmas at Karen. And I remember thinking, my family's going to miss me so much for this Christmas. I'm going to ruin Christmas. And during the family education program, my mom said, this is the first time in 3 years that I can cook Christmas dinner without my purse on my shoulder. And I just, for that moment, I just remember thinking like, how low I had sunk. In my mind, I was this, you know, fast and furious chalkboard, let's steal this, let's do this, let's do this. And meanwhile, I'm taking $40 out of my mother's purse when she's not looking. That's what I had become. That's what alcohol brought me to. I spent 30 days there, and I did everything that they told me to. I got really honest. That uncle that was really cool that I talked about earlier, not so cool. And I got really, really honest about that stuff. And I left it there. They kept me for another 90 days. I went into the men's extended care program there. So I entered December 4th, 2006, and I left April 4th of 2007. I don't know. In retrospect, it was a great time, rehab. I don't really feel the need to go back, and I haven't since I left. I felt very fortunate to be there. I felt like this was my one shot, and all of it was driven by this fear of not wanting to go to prison. That was really the big thing that brought me in. I do not want to go to prison, so I was scared to death. But somehow, something along the way, whether it be my higher power, the meetings, my sponsors, working with other guys, the book, all of it, I don't know. Something happened where it just stuck, and I never felt the need to go back out again. So far, to this day, you know? And when I say I did everything that they told me to do, I did. When I left there, I did a 90 and 90 because I couldn't get hired. I still had all those charges, and nobody would hire me. I applied to Home Depot, I applied to PetSmart, I applied to Lowe's, I applied to Michael's Crafts. That one really hurt. Not getting a job. When Michael's Crafts passes on you, I was like, they were like, whoa, this guy, keep him away from the yarn. Like, this is, he will steal anything that's not nailed down. So I just went to meetings. I got a sponsor the day I got out of rehab. I went to meetings. I didn't do it perfectly, you know, and I love that line where it talks about we're not saints. You know, no one among us has done anything like this perfect. And I don't do it perfectly. I'm not the perfect dad. I'm not the perfect husband. I'm not the perfect sponsor. I'm not the perfect anything, employee, but I try my best. I have a program that helps me stay accountable and helps me try my best. You know, and I said in the beginning, when I really do draw the line back to everything virtuous and beautiful in my life, whether it's a belief in a higher power, my daughter, my wife, my boss, my job, my car, my sleep patterns, anything, it's all drawn back to the program. There's a direct line that goes right back to something someone in the program told me, or something, an opportunity that arose out of just sitting in those seats and listening and doing the next right thing. Like, I don't really have the perfect algorithm to stay sober for 18 years. I don't know. I can transmit it the best that I can to my guys. But after I got sober, I had to work for 2 years with a probation officer. I had to come in and take random drug tests, whiz quiz. She would just call me and say, you have to come into the courthouse today between 11 and 12, and you're gonna meet with this person, and we're gonna drug test you. And I would have to do that. And I remember thinking, I'm above this. This is so demeaning to me. And I would sit in this room with this linoleum floor with all these guys, and I would smell weed, and they would, you know, I'm doing better than this. But the reality was, and somebody told me this too from the rooms, they didn't pick your name out of a hat. And that helped me very much because they didn't. I earned that seat there. I really genuinely did. So I took the quizzes and I did everything that I was told. And then eventually they stopped. And eventually I earned enough money to pay back the restitution that I owed. And I started to make amends. I did a searching and fearless moral inventory. And I did that when I was in rehab, and I do mean fearless. When I finished, I remember the guy, Carl, he was awesome. He was like, he reminded me of like if Mr. Rogers was like kind of a strong man. He was like super jacked, but had this like extra Mr. Rogers, like, I love you, everything's gonna be okay, I'm wearing a huge sweater vibe. And I did my 4th and 5th with him. And then when I did my 5th, he said, now tell me the 2 things that you weren't gonna tell me. And I did. And that's kind of when it all cracked open for me. Really, the searching and fearless moral inventory is really what I root my long-term sobriety in. I credit it to my faith in a higher power, to prayer, to meditation, to the attendance at the meetings, and then also to that. And I can tie it right back to being really honest about everything that went down, how I was feeling, everything I had ever done. And once it was gone, I felt light when I left there. I just felt like I weighed 2 pounds. I floated out of there, and I felt like I want this feeling forever. The pink cloud, I think, is what they call it. I had that feeling, and I wanted to keep it. I never thought I'd feel like that again without alcohol. I never thought, or drugs. I just never thought I would feel that good ever again. And in that moment, I did. And that was good enough for me. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it because I got to do everything I wanted to do. I got a wonderful job. I got a wonderful wife who I met in Los Angeles, working as a stand-up comedian and an improviser. I lived there for 8 years. We met working on the Jimmy Kimmel Show, and I just remember thinking, I'm going to marry this girl. And we got sent to a date paid for by Jimmy Kimmel Show with Boys to Men. And one of the Boys to Men didn't show. He was stuck in traffic. So we just got paid to sit there at this coffee shop in Hollywood and just talk to each other. And she said, my dad's been sober 25 years. And I just thought, I was 7 years sober at the time. And I just thought, this is God working in my life. Like, you just airdrop this woman who's beautiful, who understands the program into my life 3,000 miles away from where I got sober. And you're just going to tell me that this is how it works? She just happens to know about the program? I don't know, man. It doesn't really happen like that anywhere else that I've seen. And what I do today, like I said, I have 5 sponsees. I have a really easy life. It's not simple, I don't not struggle, but it's really easy. And when I start missing meetings, I start missing drinking. Because even without the alcohol, my reaction to life is immediate and excessive and inappropriate. That's just my alcoholism. That's my brand. I blow up. I get angry. I judge. And to have they said that when I got sober, you'll get a half a second of pause for every year that you get sober. And I don't know who made that up because it doesn't work. Not for me. I still do not have 9 seconds of pause when somebody cuts me off in traffic. I just don't. But I have 3, I have an opportunity. There is a space there now where I can choose what to do. I get to choose now. And I never had that choice before. And that's such a gift. And, I was driving the other night. It was like a perfect night. My daughter was in the car with me. She had a little pinwheel. She was holding it out the window. The sun was going down. We were in the countryside, driving home. And I looked in the rear view and I saw her. And I just thought, I am the luckiest guy on earth. I really, genuinely am. And I felt this beauty and so much that I wanted to cry. And I know that feeling is not sustainable. You know what I mean? I know that something's going to pop out of the woodwork at work or at home or whatever. My wife's going to, be like, you were supposed to pick up fish or, whatever, something that just completely derails, come on. But at least I have the opportunity to experience those moments because I genuinely believe that I would have died out there. I think that I can get sobered up, I can get locked up, or I can get covered up. Those are the 3 choices. And I was locked up and I didn't like it. I don't want to go to prison. I do not want to go to jail ever again. I have something on my visor that my sponsor gave me and it says, he's unavailable a lot. And I mean, we talk in the mornings, but he's got a big job and he's not available during the day. He's not a guy I can text with and stuff when something's going on. So I have other men in the program that I rely on for that. But he gave me this, he wrote this down and he said, it's very simple. It just says, that is definitely not what you should do. And I had it made into a patch, like a morale patch that I put on my rear view mirror, like my visor, and I pull it down and I read it. It says, that is definitely not what you should do. Because when I have a great idea, I run it through that patch and I'm like, no, not gonna do that today. And it works great. So much so that I told him I almost don't even need him anymore. Replaced by a patch. And I told him that's his story. But, you know, I was also told never to turn down service. And when Ron reached out yesterday and needed somebody in a pinch, my first thought was, it's your daughter's birthday. It's her 7th birthday. It's her golden birthday. You can't leave. It's not the right thing to do. You got a graduation party you got to go to during the day. You got to do this. You have to do this. You got to do this. And instead what I said was yes. And I have never said yes to service and been disappointed. And that's certainly not going to start tonight because it's such a terrific room and I don't know you guys, but I love you. And I'm so glad that you're here and I'm so happy that I got to share with you tonight, and that's all I got. Thank you very much.
My name's Nick, I'm an alcoholic. Let's give Frank another round of applause. It was fantastic. Now this is a life and death errand we're on here, but you have to find laughter, and he brought such good laughter tonight. It's so important. You can judge your sobriety and how much you're laughing every day. So that's so important. We get dressed up for this meeting, and all are welcome to do that. We always joke, we know you got a suit home from court, so just put that on and show up here and be of service. It's customary to form a line. We thank our speakers on a personal level. We form a line in the front and thank them on a personal level, so we'll do that. We'd like to thank Howard for taking care of the kitchen tonight. Thank you, Howard. And we can use some help cleaning up. We can leave all the chairs at the tables back there, just the chairs on the floor here get put on the racks or in the closet back here. And if you care to join us, we will close with the Lord's Prayer. We'll circle up. Funny guy. How am I so funny? All right. Awesome. Have a brief moment of silence for the sick and suffering. Followed by the Lord's Prayer. Our Father,